Hey, it's Drybear. We're continuing our series of covering every weapon in Wild Hearts, and today we landed on the Maul. We'll cover all the basic combinations, the mechanics to be aware of, and how to use the weapon, as well as some tips and tricks to be successful in the game. If you found value in this video, leave a like down below. It helps me out tremendously. Subscribe for more gaming content, and as always, if you have any questions or comments for me, or you just want to hang out, I'm live every day on twitch.tv/Drybear. Come by and say hi. So let's jump into the Maul. This is actually one of my favorite weapons. I like all the weapons in the game, but there's a comfort spot for Maul. I think it has some of the best hit feedback of any weapon in the game, and there's a lot of value and satisfaction that comes from lining things up. So it is a big, heavy, slow weapon. It is a big hammer with an extendable little staff there at the end. The way you hold it, it extends, and based on the extension length, you get either different combinations or more damage. So that's kind of the name of the game, is being able to extend it as far as you can and using those combos. A brief reminder, if you ever want to test new weapons, whether it's Maul or any other weapon, you can walk up to one of these training bears and activate the training mode. If you want to learn a new weapon, you can turn on attack tutorials, which will walk you through some of the basics of the weapon. There is one inside Minato in the map here, and there's one built into the first zone, the spring zone, the Harugasumi way, but you can also just go and make your own like I have here by using your Dragon Karakuri to place this down. So let's talk about the basics of the Maul. It is probably, we don't have exact numbers on this, but it feels to me, since I play all the weapons, it has the highest stagger damage, and it actually has some of the highest destruction as well. I think it's one of the easiest weapons to break open the hunter's arm holes in monsters, and it's one of the easiest weapons to break off parts as well. So you can get a lot of very serious damage out with the Maul. So when you have it sheathed, it'll fold up like this with its staff down on the ground, and then you can activate it to bring it out. And your basic combo is either your square. Now I'm going to talk about this in the form of PlayStation controls. That's what I use. I use PlayStation controller on my PC. But if you're wondering, you can just very easily translate those into the other buttons. It's very straightforward. All of the attacks line into 3 different attacks: your light attack or your attack 1, your heavy attack or your attack 2, and then your special. On PlayStation, attack 1 is square, attack 2 is triangle, and your special is R2. And then on Xbox, it'll be X, Y, and RT respectively. So when you use your square or your attack 1, it is a very simple hit chain of attacks. You throw out the mace, it hits the target, you'll deal damage. If you hit it again, it'll go backwards. If you hit it again, you'll do another follow-up, and then you'll reset your stance, and you'll be able to do it again. It's a very simple pound combo. You won't really be doing it all that much unless you're killing like small Kemono that are in the way, or you just really are in a bind because we want to be using the main mechanic of the weapon. But that is the core the attack 1 combination. You also have your heavy attack, your attack 2, which is a jumping smash. It's great for clearing distance. It's useful for moving forward, since you do kind of move. As a weapon drawn, you're slower than some of the other weapons in the game. So you do kind of have to position yourself or use the Karakuri. But your attack 2 looks like this. You activate it and you'll jump and smash. If you hit it again, you'll just do it again. There isn't really a hit chain for this. You can keep doing this as much as you want, and it will take you some distance forward. It does do normal hit damage. So that's kind of the hit that you'll get from that. So you'll just get the jump smash combo. So those are your 2 basic combos. You can also go into a special, which if you activate your special, if you hold it down, you'll go into this spin move. So this one is kind of interesting. It's hard to use properly because it takes a while to ramp up. But if you hold it down the whole time, you'll eventually start swinging through and your weapon will extend. So this is your default Maul state, which has a hilt that is just long enough for you to grab it and no more. If you do the combo, you'll see that as you hold down your special, it'll extend, it'll get longer, and then it'll extend again, activate, and when it ends, you can just go, and if you've got to the final state and you finish the combo, you'll do your big ground smash attack, which is it. So I actually found that it's hard to use this spin move, and it's kind of slow when you need it. But let's talk about the actual core mechanic of the weapon that you'll be utilizing most. When you do any attack and then you finish it and your weight settles, you'll notice that your maul glows. So you see that orange glow that comes out of your maul? That is your chance to empower the weapon or extend, it's called helving, where you helve the weapon and extends the hilt for it. So if you hit special, which is your R2 or RT on console, hit special, it will helve your weapon and boost it up. But if you don't do anything with that, it'll reset automatically. So the whole point is to be able to use those buttons consecutively to do some nice damage. So the first combo that you use for that is going to be your attack 1, your square combination, which is the same combo that you have here. It's a 3-hit ground pound attack. But if you helve your weapon by hitting the special at the right time, you'll get a super powerful, probably the most powerful way to use the weapon in my experience. So you activate it, when it glows, you special. When it glows, you special. And then if you get all 3 of them, you get into super dunk mode. So you can see how fast that is compared to the spin move, the special spin. This takes way longer and all of your stamina to eventually get this big dunk. And then once you finally get it all the way, then you can finally do it. And it ends up doing less damage anyways. So that's kind of the hit there. So I would actually recommend mastering the timing of this, because it's actually, if you did only this, I think you would be just fine with the Maul. So you'll notice that if you miss the timing, so say like I throw out this first attack on the attack 1 and I miss the timing, nothing happens. And actually it has some protection in there so that you can't spam it either. Like if you spam it early and miss it, you won't be able to actually get it. So you do have to hit it the second it hits that, and you'll see that animation when it hits it correctly. And then if you miss the final one, so it looks like this, you'll hit this, you'll throw this, and then you'll hit this. This is if you miss the timing. It still does okay damage. The reach is a little bit lower and it's pretty slow, but you do have this as a backup. So if you miss the second one here and then you try to go for the follow-up, you'll get this spin move. It does decent damage, but it's definitely not as good as your big donkity donk donk. So this is the one that I would talk about most as being the winner for Maul, especially if you can get a target down. But let's talk about the other option that you have, is you can use your helving to extend your aerial attacks as well. So if you do this with the jump smash, the same options are there. It lands, it glows, you can go again. And you'll notice that you'll actually glow every time you do this. And if you time it right, you can actually do this until you run out of stamina. This one is about moderate damage. I would say that if you're consistently on the ground hitting your 3-hit chain on attack 1, you have a lot more opportunity to deal damage, especially if you're hitting the weak point. But if there's aerial mobs, there's wings you need to break that are hard to get to, or you're just worried about a lot of motion, or there's AoEs on the ground, you can do the jump combo. So you hit this, your second shot can be like this, and you can even finish with a square if you want for like this meteor strike. So you can go down into one, helve, switch into triangle, helve, and then you can go down into the square, or vice versa. So you have that option available if you want to continue it. But again, if you can time this right, you can actually hit this, helve it, go, when it comes back up, go, 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 and do it until you run out of stamina. Which is, it's goofy, it's fun, it feels really good. So those are kind of your options. And just note that every time your Maul stops moving, you can helve it, and then you can follow up with something else. So if you want to go into this, into a follow here with the mace or the Maul, you can go into an attack 1 or an attack 2. Sorry about the spam on the left side. I have extended halve or extended rep, which is a passive that gives me bonus every time I extend my weapon, and it just spams my screen. So there you go. But say you wanted to go into this, you can go into a decent follow-up here. So you can actually land, helve, and then you can do this for decent damage. But let's talk about optimal usage here. You can also go into the basics of plunges. So you have Karakuri to look at. You can spawn the box Karakuri. You can land, and this will do like this really nice kind of same thing that you can do if you helve and then land with a square. It actually ends up being the same attack. And the damage is respectable. It's not terrible. And especially if you're kind of coming down on a mob that's just falling, you can get some pretty serious damage out of that. You also have an option to use the springboard. So you can use this to dash forward. It does kind of like this like landing slam, which also does decent damage. Not too bad. And then if you want fire attacks as well, you can use this. I have found that this weapon is not the best for using the torch because it hits so slowly. It kind of builds up a little bit slower, but obviously if you're looking at fusion Karakuri, not just putting the torch down. You get plenty of options for that. And lastly, we can talk about the glider as an option here. So this one works the same as the box and the same as healthing in the air and landing. You'll do this kind of meteor strike to land down. So this one is probably one of the only weapons in the game where I would recommend this kind of play style. I've been playing all the weapons, trying to maximize as much as I can out of them, and I have found that for the Maul only, and only the Maul, I stopped using Karakuri for attacks. And the reason for this is because if you hit weak point on your 3-hit health extension combo, you don't really need the Karakuri. It's nice to be able to get the distance. It's nice to be able to get the plunge, but I've been able to do, in the handful of minute clears on some of the harder Kemono by managing this. So what I do is instead of using, spawning these regularly, trying to get these out, using them, springboarding, boxing, I save all of my threads in order to do the fusion Karakuri and then use those fusion Karakuri to set up really clean windows where I can just hit, extend, and then bonk them right in a weak spot, and it just does ridiculous damage. Then you can roll, or you can bring out the Karakuri to cancel, and then you just do it again, and it just hits so hard. And oftentimes it does so much stagger and destruction that you'll break something, or you'll stagger them, or you'll stun them, and then they'll go down, and then you can do another 3-hit combo that just absolutely ruins them. It does so much freaking damage. So what do I mean by using Fusion Karakuri to set up some really cool opportunities for you? So the main ones that I would recommend using are going to be Chain Trap, Pounder, and Harpoon. I think Harpoon is super great because not only when you use Harpoon, which is going to be a combination of these, when it activates and fires, it does a decent amount of damage. It can do weak point damage as well. I've had this hit for 1,000 damage if it hits the weak point on a mob that's already kind of ready to go. And then once they get stunned, it buys you a couple seconds, which is just plenty of time to just go right in, hit your extension, and go straight in for the big bonk, which lands right at the end. You might get a stagger or a part break, which then goes right into a follow-up combo, and then you kind of just go around and use that. So the Harpoon's great for that. The Chain Trap is also very good for that. So you can use this and activate it, put it down. It'll do the same thing the Harpoon does, just a little bit longer, especially if you have it upgraded in your Karakuri tree. You can get this to last even longer. And if they run through it and step on it, 4 harpoons will appear and pin them in place. And again, when they're stuck in place, you just go straight in for your big boy combo and aim for the weak point, and boom, you got some serious damage. And then you can also do things like the Pounder. Pounder is actually pretty nice because it does do pretty decent stagger damage as well. So it'll bonk them, it does decent damage, and then if you hit them in the right spot, you can knock them down. And then you also want to memorize the punish points for every Kemono that you're fighting. So for example, if any of them charge, you can do a bulwark, which will stop the charge, knock them down, and then lay them flat on their back. You can also do pounders on the Venom Glider and Spine Glider. When they get up on top of their perch, if you hit them with a pounder, it'll break the perch and then knock them on the ground and stun them. So you have those kind of opportunities to really mess with them. If flying Kemonos go in the air and you hit them with a firework, it'll stun them, drop them to the ground, and you can punish them. So that's my recommendation. Obviously, you can play however you want. If you want to play around with the more aerial style, use your Helving to kind of stay in the air and extend and do some really cool combos that way and get some damage. And you can also use the Karakuri if you'd like to get some decent damage and some flexibility. You can go in and get some shots in there, and you can Helve and extend and do that. I've just found that the 3-hit ground combo is so absolutely broken that that's really all you need to do some ridiculous damage. And in many cases, if you're doing it consistently without being interrupted and you're hitting the weak point most of the time, I don't know if there's a build for Maul that matches it in damage output. But again, that does require some planning, some thinking, and some setup. So that is the Maul, one of the weapons in Wild Hearts. Hopefully this was helpful for you in picking up the game. I have videos on the other weapons as well, so you can find those on my channel and in the playlist that I have down below. And as always, if you have any questions or comments for me, you can just pop by my live stream. I'm live every day. Come by and say hello. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.